Hello Year 2 and welcome to your first English lesson of the week. Now, this is a very exciting week because this week is when we're going to be innovating the story journey and making it your own, so making it even more exciting. Okay, so to start with, we're going to have a look at some keyword practice. So we're going to be thinking about how many of these words you can read. So what I'd like you to do, I would like your partner, it says your partner, so that can be an older sibling or it can be a grown-up, okay? They're going to choose a word, say the word, and you need to write it down so you get some practice. You can always then swap over, see who gets the most right. So we've got the words even, I, sugar, both, and great. So pause the video and have a go at that. Okay. Now we're going to look at our spelling words for the week. We've got the words travel, model, camel, jewel, pastel, parcel, vowel, and label. Pause the video and have a chat to your grown-up or have a think to yourself. What's similar about all of these? What's the same about each of these spellings? Okay. Oops, let's just go back. So, if you said they all end in the EL, you would be correct. Have a look at them. They all end in the L sound, but it is written EL. So remember those for your spellings for this week. We'll go over those again at another time. Right, so now this is a bit of a challenge for you. You've got your same spellings, okay? I would like you to put them into alphabetical order. So on a piece of paper or on a whiteboard, pause the video and have a go at putting them into alphabetical order. Off you go. Well done. If you said that camel was the first one, you would be correct. Because when we're putting things into alphabetical order, we go, is there anything beginning with an A? No. B? No. C. Yes, camel begins with a C. So that would be our first one. You would then work your way through. So you should have camel, jewel, label, model. Then it gets a bit tricky because there's two that begin with the letter P. So then what you do is have a look at the second letter. But hang on a minute. Both of them have an A as the second letter. What do we do then, I hear you ask? We go to the third letter. So pastel and parcel. The one that comes first is parcel because in the alphabet, R comes before S. So we should have camel, jewel, label, model, parcel, pastel, travel, and vowel. If you got those in the right order, fantastic. Right, so as I said earlier, we are going to be thinking about innovating our story today. So I would like you to imagine that you are Rebecca in the story journey and you've drawn a door on the wall. Don't really do it. Where does that door take you? Hey, have a look at these pictures and see which one of these you really, really like. You might, when you're thinking of where Rebecca would go, you might choose one of your own, but this is just to give you an idea. You can always pause the video, have a look at them, decide which one you like the best. Okay, there's some more on the next page as well. Look, there's lots of magical lands where Rebecca could go on her journey, on her adventure. Do you want somewhere scary? Do you want somewhere beautiful? It's up to you to decide because it's your story. Okay. I have chosen this one. This was my favourite picture. Okay. When you've chosen one, you need to think about what is it like? What's the weather like there? Okay. What can Rebecca see in the distance? Remember in the normal story of Journey, she could see ancient domed buildings in the distance. What can she see in the distance of this one? Also, in our story of Journey, the guards scared her. You're going to be thinking about who's going to scare Rebecca in this new story. when you've paused the video and chatted to your grown-up and answered all those questions, what you can do then is to start to innovate your story. So on the sheet that you're going to complete in a minute, there is a box where you draw your design of where Rebecca will go. Okay? Next to it is another box for you to think about who is going to scare Rebecca and draw that character in there. Underneath that, there is part of our story. So our original one said, immediately she felt the blazing sun beam onto her face and she felt the boiling hot sand between her toes. Now, because we're going to a different place, the setting has changed, I can't use the same vocabulary. I need to think of some different vocabulary. So what I've done, I have crossed out the blazing sun. And because it looks a bit mystical and things like that, and I'm not quite sure what's going to happen there, I've decided to go for a cool breeze. Okay? Remember, we're looking at getting some really good adjectives in there. So mine now says, immediately she felt the cool breeze on her face. Okay? Imagine what that's like. Imagine you're Rebecca. You are stepping through that door into this wonderful land and you feel the cool breeze on your face. I looked at the next bit and it said, and she felt the boiling hot sand between her toes. Now I can't see any sand in this picture. So again, I need to think of something to change it. I need to be using those adjectives, those describing words to innovate my story. So I can see under the trees here, it looks a bit muddy. So I've changed boiling hot sand to the soft, squishy mud. It says she can feel it between her toes. She must not have any shoes on, or maybe she's got flip-flops on. Okay, so now my first innovated part says, immediately she felt the cool breeze on her face and she felt the soft, squishy mud between her toes. Full stop. The next part, where am I? And that will stay the same because Rebecca is still walking through the door into a mystery land and still does not know where she is. So where am I? She wondered. The next part says, in the distance, she could see domed buildings surrounded by a thick brick wall. Now, I can't see any domed buildings in my picture. So again, I need to innovate that part to make sure it makes sense. Now, when I look at it in the distance, I can see a rickety old house. Does anybody know what rickety means? It means it's falling down, it's not built correctly, might be bits falling off it, and it means it's quite old. So I'm put in the distance, she could see a rickety old house. Surrounded by, well, it's definitely not surrounded by a thick brick wall, but I can see lots of beautiful flowers. So I've changed it to surrounded by bright, colourful flowers. So that sentence now reads, in the distance, she could see a rickety old house surrounded by bright, colourful flowers. Can you see how by changing certain parts of the story, it creates a whole new story? We're creating a whole new adventure for Rebecca to find out where she's going to be going. This is very exciting because you can make this story however you want, okay? If you want to really, really think of some amazing adjectives, don't forget you can look in a thesaurus. If you haven't got a thesaurus at home, you can go onto Collins Thesaurus online and type in a word and it will give you lots of other words that you could use instead. So maybe you could do that so that you can up-level your vocabulary to be using some absolutely awesome words. I know this week in school, we were thinking of other words for scared when we were looking at Rebecca's story, and we came up with the word petrified. And we found the word petrified by looking in the thesaurus. It'll be amazing to see who can come up with the most adventurous vocabulary. So now when you read the whole thing back, immediately she felt the cool breeze on her face and she felt the soft, squishy mud between her toes. Where am I? She wondered. In the distance, she could see a rickety old house surrounded by bright, colourful flowers. Because that's so interesting, it makes the reader want to carry on reading. Because now I want to know what happens next. What does Rebecca do? Who is the person that scares her? So on your sheet, you will have thought of somebody that would scare her. Okay, so if you've chosen one like I have, you might be thinking, oh, who could be in a wooded area that might come and scare her? Have a go and let me know how you get on. That is fantastic. Well done. Okay, so this is the next part. Okay, so have a look. I'm going to have a troll instead of a guard. Okay, so the next part of our story, our original story said, cautiously, she walked towards the ancient buildings, but stopped when she saw fierce-looking guards charging towards her. Okay, now, as we looked on our sheet, we didn't have any ancient buildings. We had the rickety old house. So I need to change that part. So I've changed it to rotting buildings. So I've crossed out ancient buildings and changed the ancient for rotting. So now it says, cautiously, she walked towards the rotting buildings, but stopped when she saw fierce looking, and I've changed guards to trolls, charging towards her. You might also want to change the word fierce if you're going to challenge yourself. Look in the thesaurus. Can you think of another word for fierce? So we've got cautiously, she walked towards the rotting buildings, but stopped when she saw fierce-looking trolls charging towards her. Full stop. Think about how Rebecca would feel. We've said Rebecca was terrified. If you really wanted to up-level that, you could cross terrified out and maybe write petrified. Or maybe in your thesaurus, you could find another word that means the same as terrified. Suddenly, she remembered her magical red crayon. As quick as a flash, she drew a... Now we're going to cross out flying carpet because we've used that in our other story. We're going to be thinking of something else. How could she escape quickly? Is there another mode of transport she could use to get out of there? So, as quick as a flash, she drew a hot air balloon and hoped that it would take off. She jumped, and this is where you have to be a bit careful, because she wouldn't jump onto a hot air balloon, would she? She would jump in. So I've had to change on to in. She jumped in and whoosh, she zoomed into the sunset sky. It's making very, very interesting reading. Have a go. I am so looking forward to listening to these stories and reading these stories this week, because by the end of the week, we will have all written a brand new story, because we will have all innovated the story of the journey and made it our own. And the good thing will be, nobody's will be the same. So I will have 30 different stories to read, and I can't wait. See you soon. Bye.